Hi and welcome to the Louise Jannetta Art Gallery and Studio YouTube channel. Today I just wanted to explain a little about how my process has developed, because on my channel there is an eclectic mix of styles, both traditional and very contemporary. So it helps you to realise how all these things have accumulated to really help me in my process, and may help you in developing your own processes as well. On my channel you'll find the very traditional techniques, and as an artist I did really immerse myself in various techniques, really tried to learn the processes so that I fully understand the capabilities of the mediums. So I've done watercolour, acrylic, oils and printing. Learning these things, really immersing yourself in how they work and how you can utilise the techniques and the mediums to mimic nature or buildings or light, shade and form, really helps me understand how far I can push the medium as I progress, as I want to develop it further. I was a traditional upholsterer, so I've always used strings, fabrics, always loved fabrics and textures. And in fact, traditional upholstery, when you sew hair into shapes, is very like sculpting with hair and fabrics and string, because you sew string through it. So the use of strings and threads and fabrics was very natural, came very natural to the process. And I was also really interested in how the paint responds to this stuff. So different fabrics and different papers will absorb paint in different ways. So you get this lovely play of the attributes of everything that you're using mixing together. And that's what I have developed out of the processes that I've been using. And of course all these things take a huge amount of experience to know and to be able to control and manipulate it to your advantage, while still allowing their attributes to really contribute to what's happening. I hope it's of use to you, and I hope it inspires you to play and experiment yourself. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. A lot of the work is very representational, but it's not really just the image of the trees. It's to do with the tactile qualities of the textures added, how the paint responds to these lovely grooves and indentations, so you really add to the qualities of the paint. It's not simply a brushstroke anymore, it's very much an interaction between what's on the canvas and how you use the paint, glazing, rubbing back, scraping in. So that's really how I started, and it all stems from the fact that I was a traditional upholsterer. So I used textiles and strings in the work I did, and it was transposed onto canvases and then painted. This is the image of the same picture, but without the light coming from the side, so the shadows aren't cast. It's extremely important the picture is shown in not a gallery light, not a fixed light, in your own home or something where the light changes, and if a cloud goes behind a cloud then the shadows will shimmer and change within the picture, so the light actually gives it an extra life.
So it's not just the way that the paint sits within the grooves and the textures of the painting, it's also how the light interacts with it, and the relief work casts shadows and responds to nature or the ambient light itself.
The effect I wanted to achieve with the oil paintings, with the light being cast by the relief, is an extremely time-consuming process, and so the paintings have to be expensive. But I also then realised that I had to develop a less expensive method, and I used paper and thread. So I've got very heavy watercolour paper, because otherwise it warps with all the tension of all the glues, and I applied papers and threads onto it, which then really respond to the mediums used, because when you apply something to this, some paint, all the different fabrics and threads and stuff on here will respond to the paint in different ways. So they respond in a lovely, spontaneous way. And obviously I then developed a few more techniques. I've done a workshop on this string picture, on the seagulls on the sea, and I went on to develop abstracts with the same techniques. All this just leads to extreme experimentation constantly. And also, because I've always been interested in printing, I developed this technique with the same sort of things, papers and threads and strings and fabrics, applied to a plate, to a metallized card, which you can then print from. And also, I loved the way that the oil paints got stuck into all the grooves and into all the textures of the image. So it became more about the paint, the way the paint and the textures and things interact and create their own lovely sort of mark making and imagery. And again, this can be taken even a step further. I was messing, and all this can be taken a step further. And all this can be taken a step further. I was messing with what I could achieve. And I really liked the way that the charcoal got stuck into the grooves of textured papers. So I was messing with that, trying all sorts of different ways that charcoal will respond to different things. So these are fabrics, these are painted in acrylic, folded fabrics and papers. And I just went on and on and on, and came across this lovely technique where you apply carbon to things, again textured papers, and I was very lucky enough to find some really beautiful little mark making things that happen, and ended up with things like this, which they sort of have another worldly type thing. They look like sort of leftover bits of messaging or ancient hieroglyphs or ancient carvings in rocks or embossed into strange sort of metals or lava flows. So I really enjoyed that process. And again, playing with papers and paints that become they allude to something else, and the synesthetic qualities of it suggest other things, which I really enjoyed. So no longer are they ephemeral, delicate papers and threads. They become something much more permanent and reference metals and rocks. And things that maybe have decayed or actually been constructed over a period of time and under a lot of compression. And it was the lovely, what's it called when it's alludes to something? It's not a mimicry. It's to do with the deception, that it suggests something else, and you are surprised when you touch and feel these things, expecting them to be metal, and they are not. I did a video on textured abstracts called Textured Abstracts. So again, looking at how paint reacts to textures and how you actually have to paint them. And again, I found some really beautiful mark making things that you could achieve, and really enjoyed the layering and mark making of this one, and went on to combine the techniques that I had created in these two types of imagery to see how you could use the textures that you can apply on the papers to enhance the way that the paint sits on the paper and the way the paint reacts and how you react to the paint. So here I've got textured papers, which is taking up the paints in these lovely ways, which you can burnish off or allow to stay in the recesses. And this is paint that's literally been scraped across the textures and got stuck in the grooves and left. And then this is paper that is applied post-painting this, and this responds so differently to the other textured papers. It's got a much more subtle absorbency, so you can get this beautiful blending, and you get two very different types of mark making. This is another one using similar processes, and what I'm really enjoying is the way that the colours have this beautiful suggestion. The colours are exciting, the mark making is exciting, and you can just go on and use this ad infinitum, just keep playing. Colours, textures, I'm really looking forward to all of this. I consider myself extremely lucky. I've got a really beautiful studio that's extremely well equipped. Every last penny I've earned on this process has been reinvested in the studio. I've got a printing press, and I have framing equipment, and I have wall space for exhibitions, and I have storage, so I'm extremely lucky. So hopefully now I've demonstrated that having learned the traditional techniques and how to manipulate paint into representational form, I could then really go on to indulge in my interest in the attributes of the mediums themselves. How it's possible through line, colour, gesture and form to build interest, curiosity and surprise. It's a tactile, haptic, sensorial, even synesthetic experience, while still utilising the spiritualism and the musicology of abstraction. I hope you enjoy, I hope you get something out of it, and I hope it stimulates you to go on and discover all these lovely things yourselves. If you have any questions, please just put them in the comments below and I'll endeavour to respond to them. If you have any queries about methods or techniques, then I'm happy to answer them. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy the videos. All the best.